The banquet hall was not yet bright. The chairs still wore their cloth, and in the florist room behind, the ferns lay cool and soft. You stood beside the marble sink with water on your sleeve, a ribbon curled beside the shears, too light to quite believe. The white boxes were marked in rows, the orchids laid in twos. A bellboy came for roses once, then vanished with his shoes. And I, with no appointment there, stayed near the open door to watch you lift a purple bloom as if it weighed much more. The gentleman from table 9 came early, coat in hand, his cufflinks bright, his manner smooth, his smile too well planned. You chose the pin from off the tray, then held the lapel still, and leaned just close enough to work the stem against the twill. He thanked you with a little bow, you only turned away, then checked the ribbon on the box for Mrs. Calder's spray. I said I came to ask the time, though clocks were everywhere, and felt the room grow smaller round that orchid in the air. The pin in the corsage, silver through the green, held one flower near his heart, where mine had never been. The pin in the corsage, I watched your fingers stay, and wondered why a careful touch could take my words away. It was not jealousy, I thought, only June behind a wall, only polished hotel doors, only footsteps in the hall. Yet some small ache will find its proof in what the eye has seen, a flower fastened for another man, and no place left between. The pin in the corsage, hidden sharp and slight, kept the orchid standing proud beneath the banquet light. The pin in the corsage, no promise, no embrace, only your hand making beauty hold on someone else's place. The door swung wide, the music rose, the white boxes grew few, and on the tray one silver pin lay waiting, bright and blue. The ropes were loosed without a fuss. The bell gave one small sound. The water took the ferry side and pulled the shoreline round. The river wore a pewter sheen, the gulls kept to the stern. Your hat was pinned against the wind, your collar softly turned. The bench along the outer rail still held the morning through, I saw your pause before you sat, and knew what I must do. I spread the market pages down across the painted slats. The grocer's ad, the racing odds, the weather, this and that. So nothing cold should find its way through wool and age and sense. The paper on the bench. You sat and spoke of common things, the butcher and his knee, your sister's letter from the coast, the pears still on the tree. The ferry cut the river wide in slow and patient halves, and every little thing you said made homely all the draft. No vow was ever needed there above the diesel hum. No rose, no grand demonstrative word, no drum for what we've done. For love, when it has had its years, grows practical and quick. It sees the damp before you do, and minds it with a flick. I spread the market pages down before you even knew, and all the newsprint in the world turned warm by sheltering you. At landing, when you rose again, the wet had left no trace, only the faint shape where you'd been, and one dry, tended place. The paper on the bench, I folded it beneath my arm when all the crossing passed. One headline blurred, one corner torn by a river wind at last. And somehow that poor common sheet was finer than it sounds, for all the day it seemed to keep the shape of where you'd lean down. Twilight leaned on window panes, the cobblestones shone bright, a phonograph breathed soft refrains into the rainy night. The waiter stacked the little plates and turned the corner lamp. The velvet kept its patient warmth against our sleeves grown damp. You stirred the spoon, then set it by, and watched the street below. A teardrop trembled in your eye, but would not let me know until the cups went cold. We let the rainy hour unfold and kept the words we could not hold until the cups went cold. The waiter brought the little tray and left the check with bread. The amber lamp made velvet play in blue and threads of red. You rose a little from your chair, then slowly sat once more. Outside the rain was everywhere. Inside, no one reached the door. The phonograph grew faint and small. A reverie came near. The rain made silver on the wall and held us longer here. No serenade came through the street, no violin took part, only the waiter in retreat, and rain laid softly on my heart. And then I knew what sorrow meant, not thunder, loss or blame, but staying past the time we spent, still warming one dear name, until the cups went cold. We let the rainy hour unfold and kept the words we could not hold until the cups went cold. At last you drew your gloves on slow. The rain had weakened gray. One pale ring kept a little glow long after you went away. The ushers dim the aisle lights down. The organ tried a chord, and in the booth above the crowd, the second reel was stored. You stood beside the rewinder there, with film across your hand, a little lamp, a silver can, the picture yet unplanned. The children rustled paper bags, their mothers settled hats. A newsreel drum began below, with horses, flags and maps. Then one bright strip went loose and thin, a torn frame near the side. You caught it before the wheel could pull the afternoon too wide. You trimmed the edge with careful shears, then brushed the dust away, and laid the broken inches flat where all the shadows lay. The cement smelled of orange peel, the sprocket holes shone small, and when your thumb held down the seam, the booth forgot us all. I had come up to ask the time, or so I told myself. My ticket stub was folded twice and warming on the shelf. You did not turn, but softly said, "Hold still until it dries." And all the moving world below was waiting for your eyes.
One clear splice, one clear splice.
Nothing anyone would see when
faces filled the light. One clear splice.
Yet when the reel ran through, a broken moment crossed the screen, as if it always knew. I think of how the crowd below would never guess the place where one small tear was made to pass without a jump or trace. Some care is not a grand repair, not gold, not speech, not art. It simply joins what nearly failed and lets the story start.
One clear slice, one clear slice,
held between your patient hands before the matinee light.
One clear slice.
I saw it then and knew a life may keep its picture whole because of hands like you. The projector caught, the reel went round, the room below grew bright, and through that little mended place, the lovers crossed in white. The row of beans had gone to shade, the watering can stood by. One thrush kept to the apple bough against a paling sky. You'd work the whole long garden through with dirt along your wrist. The lettuces, the marigolds, the path the hose had kissed. I came out late from supper things with pegs still in my hand, and saw your cardigan hung there as if it had been planned. You knew the dusk before it came, the chill before it stirred, and left one sleeve across the latch without a single word. The cardigan on the gate. You were farther down among the rows with basket shears and twine, the tomatoes giving back the heat they'd gathered all through shine. I took the sweater from the wood still warm where sun had stayed, and all at once the evening felt more tended than it made. No vow was in the garden there, no moonlit talk, no plea, only only that soft domestic wit that notices for me. For love, when it has learned its trade, grows weather-wise and plain. It hangs a little warmth nearby before the cool can claim. You knew the dusk before it came, the hour before it bent, and left a kind of waiting there more dear than compliment. I slipped it on and closed the latch. The light went leaf by leaf, and all the path came home to me. The cardigan on the gate. By dark the peas were shelled indoors, the windows yellowed late, but still I felt the shape of care that hung upon the gate. Twilight thinned along the wall, the embers kept their red. The phonograph beneath the lamp turned one soft waltz instead. You moved the velvet chair for me, I moved the smaller one, until a little floor appeared where all the day was done. Your slippers brushed the woven rug, my shoes gave back a sigh, and all at once the narrow room felt wider than the sky. When the chair stood aside, the little room grew wide and mild, and held us like a quiet child. When the chair stood aside, the mantel held one wedding frame, the curtains breathed the blue. A thread of starlight crossed the pane and found its way to you. You said, my darling, not too fast, so lightly with a smile. And every step across the floor made time stand still a while. The phonograph grew soft and thin, the embers leaned to gold, yet footsteps in that humble room sounded neither tired nor old. No serenade came through the street, no grand occasion shone, only the chairs against the wall and us when day was gone. And then I knew how love makes room, not by the words we say, but by the things we set aside to let the heart have way. When the chair stood aside, the little room grew wide and mild, and held us like a quiet child. When the chairs stood aside, the record turned, the lamp burned low, the starlight kissed the floor. Still one small space between two chairs felt blessed forevermore. Twilight rested on the frames, the lamp rehearsed its gold, the phonograph with patient grace unfastened from the cold. You did not ask me for the dance, you only crossed the room and drew my chair a little back, as if to lift the gloom. The velvet curtains kept the rain, the grate kept back the blue, and every little thing we owned grew hushed to look at you. Then when your fingers touched my sleeve, so lightly, with a sigh, the years we never thought to name went quiet by and by. The evening learned your name from how you moved, not what you said. From lamplight on your silvered head, the evening learned your name. The teacups had gone pale with steam, the embers breathed in red. You smiled and said, my darling heart, the way you always said. No miracle had crossed the rug, no bright occasion shone, unless one counts the tender grace of never being alone. Outside the cobblestones were dim and silvered by the rain. Inside one little waltz began and made us young again. No grand serenade came down the stair, no trumpet split the air. But when your hand enclosed my own, I felt how love lives there. Not in the blaze that startles youth, nor vows that bloom and burn, but in the hush a whole room keeps for those who still return. The evening learned your name from how you moved, not what you said. From lamplight on your silvered head, the evening learned your name. The record thinned to whispered dust, the fire withdrew to rose. Still starlight lay across the rug in little half laughter glows. And long after the last note passed, and long after the rain grew tame, my heart kept moving through that room where evening learned your name.
The pool clock clicked at 3:30. The tiles gave back the sun, and sandals slapped along the wall where shouting children run. You stood behind the towel shelf with chlorine on your hand, the locker keys in numbered rows, the whistle in its band. A freckled boy came dripping in, all elbows, pride and knees. He said the water took his key, the way it takes small leaves. You did not scold the missing brass or make his trouble large. You found a little cork instead and tied it to the charge. Tie it to cork, let it rise again. Some things are easier to keep when someone thinks of when. Tie it to cork. A laugh went through the place, and still you left his dignity as dry as any grace. The diving board gave one bright clap, a mother shook a sheet. The lifeguard turned his metal chair to follow flashing feet. You wrote his number on a tag, then looped the string once more. So if the deep end tried its tricks, the key would find the shore. He grinned as if he meant to say he never had been scared. You slid the cork across the counter like a secret you two shared. I came to ask for change perhaps, or claimed I had to call, but stayed beside the towel room door and liked the whole world small. Tie it to cork, let the lost thing show, let it bob above the blue where careless swimmers go. Tie it to cork, not wisdom, not a rule, only kindness with wet fingers at a city pool. There are people who can turn a fault into a lighter thing, who know the way embarrassment can bruise without a sting. They do not save the world aloud or lecture what is wrong. They fasten hope to something plain and send it floating on. The boy ran back, the gate swung wide, the cork bounced at his wrist, and all that afternoon it rose from every blue he missed.
The fitting rooms were full of wool, of hangers, pins, and thread, and September moved through polished glass in squares of quiet red. She stood beside the curtain stall with chalk upon her sleeve, the paper tags in little stacks, too plain to make believe. A salesgirl crossed with hatbox cord, a bell rang lingerie. The elevator swallowed voices and carried them away. An old seamstress from the workroom came, her purse held with both hands. She had mended coats for 30 years and never bought that brand. The gray one fit her shoulders well, but when she faced the glass, the mirror caught the ceiling more than any life that passed. She did not say, "Stand straighter, dear," or smooth the woman's pride. She only touched the outer frame and turned one panel wide. The looking glass came lower than past lamps and painted trim, until it found the careful face above the collar's rim. The old one laughed beneath her breath, a sound half shy, half new. She touched the pocket with one finger, as if the cloth were true. No ribbon marked the moment there, no clerk looked up to see. A woman used to making clothes was shown what she could be. Some labor keeps behind the seam, behind the steam and shears. It hems the sleeves for other arms and disappears for years. But now and then a steady hand will change the angle small and let the one who served the room stand bright inside it all. Turn the mirror down, let the face come through. Let the glass remember her as kindly as it knew. Turn the mirror down, not praise, not grand display, only a little dignity brought closer for the day. Turn the mirror down till the coat sits right, till the woman in the workroom gray can meet herself in light. Turn the mirror down, one quiet panel moved, and all the store grew gentler there for what the glass had proved. The tags were filed, the pins were closed, the curtains lost their sound.
and in the lowered fitting glass, her smile stayed looking round.
Twilight leaned on window glass, the cobblestones were bright. A phonograph behind the bar breathed low into the night. The waiter turned the corner lamp and set the chairs in line. The velvet kept a little warmth about your sleeve and mine. You rose as gently as a sigh and reached to take your hat. The rain was silver on the pane, I could not answer that. After the footsteps faded, the rain kept time along the stone and left the little room alone. After the footsteps faded, you crossed the floor in quiet grace, past marble, brass, and bread. A teardrop trembled near my lash, but never fully said. The door gave one reluctant sound, then shut the weather in. And all at once the empty chair looked wider than it had been. The phonograph grew faint and thin, a reverie came near. The rain wrote softly on the glass, as if to keep you here. No serenade came through the street, no grand goodbye was made. Only your footfall on the stones until the sound grew shade. And then I knew how parting works, not always sharp or stern. Sometimes it leaves by little steps that never quite return. After the footsteps faded, the rain kept time along the stone and left the little room alone. After the footsteps faded, the waiter brought the bill at last. The lamps were lowered low. Still on the pane, the rain went on with all I could not show. The store was closing floor by floor. The lamps went pale above, and hat boxes beside the glass leaned softly into love. You stood inside the elevator with buttons at your hand. The brass gate folded bright and thin. The mirror tall and bland.
A lady called for millinery. A clerk came down with lace. A child pressed every numbered light and hid his guilty face. Then he arrived with violets, his overcoat half done, and asked for floor 11, as if there were only one. The bell had rung for closing time. The door should have been drawn. You held the gate a moment more and let him hurry on. Hold the gate at 5. Let the brass stay wide. Let someone carrying flowers keep his errand safe inside. Hold the gate at 5. A courtesy no more, yet all my heart stood waiting on the wrong side of the floor. The car rose past the dresses, past gloves and evening shoes. The mirror took his violets twice and gave them back in blue. You asked if he was nearly late. He smiled and said, a little. The elevator trembled up between the floors of metal. I had no reason riding there, no purchase left to claim. My parcel held a necktie pin, my ticket bore no name. But when you reached to stop the lift and turn the handle slow, I saw how lightly one small hand can help another go. He thanked you with his hat in hand, then stepped into the hall. You watched the violets disappear and did not watch me at all. Hold the gate at 5. Let the old ropes rise. Let another man's bright flowers reach another pair of eyes. Hold the gate at 5. No promise, touch or sign, only your hand making room for a kindness that was not mine. It was not envy, I would say, to buttons, brass and light. Not envy of a flower bunch sent somewhere out of sight. But certain little mercies can uncover what we hide. The gate held open gently for the one who gets to ride. Hold the gate at 5. Let the floors go by. Let the mirror keep the violets and the question in my eye. Hold the gate at 5. The evening store grew still, and all the way down after him, that open gate stayed filled.
Twilight clung to windows
window glass. The floorboards held the blue. A magnolia breathed below. The room was washed in dew. The canvas waited pale and still. The jars were lined in gray. No phonograph, no footstep yet. Only the edge of day. My silhouette beside the pane looked thinner than the night, as if one sigh could tilt the dark and let in tender light. Before the first brush, the whole hushed room began to glow with something only dawn could know. Before the first brush, a teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished where it shone. The little saucer by the sink held one last star alone. I had no need of grander signs, no serenade above, for every jar and folded rag seemed full of waking love. The window glass turned warm with gold. The shadows lost their place. A reverie moved through the room and touched my lifted face. No masterpiece had yet begun. No color kissed the white, and still I felt the morning come like velvet over light. Then all at once I understood what quiet beauty does. It waits beside an ordinary thing and makes a world of us. Before the first brush, the whole hushed room began to glow with something only dawn could know. Before the first brush, at last I laid the color down. The blue gave way to gold. Still one small hush remained to bless the moment I could hold. A magnolia breathed below where dawn came slowly through. The canvas waited pale and still. The jars were lined in gray. My silhouette beside the pane looked softer with the day. No phonograph, no footstep yet. No word had touched the air. Only the brush, the folded rag, and morning gathering there. The petal in the water lay white within the little bowl and made the waking room feel whole. The petal in the water. It must have drifted from the branch and found the sill by chance. A teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished in its dance. I watched it turn once in the light, so quiet, faint and slow, as if the day had placed a bloom exactly where to go. Rooftops lost their blue. The starlight left the upper panes and let the gold come through. No serenade came through the street, no banner met the sky. Only a flower in rinse water and one awakening sigh. And then I knew how beauty comes, not blaze nor cry nor art, but like a little drifting thing that finds its waiting heart. The petal in the water lay wide within the little bowl and made the waking room feel whole. The petal in the water. At last I raised the waiting brush. The room grew mild and wide. Still one white petal kept the hush. The morning left inside. They were folding down the striped awning. The buckets smelled of green. One little lamp above the stall made common flowers clean. I had not meant to stop at all. I only slowed to see the florist tying up the day with tired economy. The roses all were spoken for, the lilies wrapped in white. One bruised armful of carnations stayed leaning toward the light. I took them home in yellow paper, close against my coat. And all the evening came with me, the bruised carnations. One petal loosened on my glove, like silk that could not stay. The florist said they'll open yet, then turned and looked away. I passed the hat shop's darkened glass, the bakery closing down, and felt those small imperfect blooms grow richer through the town. I took them home in yellow paper, close against my coat. And all the evening came with me, the bruised carnations. No grand bouquet had sought my room, no ribbon card or call. Yet all night long those dented blooms made sweetness of it all. And I thought some things wait till dusk to show what they can be. The ones the early daylight missed come late enough for me. I set them in the blue glass pitcher by the bedstead and the chair. And all at once the room grew kind, the bruised carnations. By morning they had opened some, not one alike in hue, and one lay loose upon the cloth, as if it always knew.